Mr. Alec Baldwin.
I just want to say thanks to Lucy Garvin and to the USTA, and thanks to Peter and NRDC, because this kind of fit is really what's necessary for an organization like this, which hosts this event and manages this event, which is one of the biggest events in New York during the year. I come here every year, or most nearly every year, and I'm always overwhelmed by how many people come to this event. And hopefully this will become a model and a blueprint for other such events in terms of recycling. These are very, very impactful on an environmental level. People come here and they need to use bathrooms and water and eat and consume and dispose and travel and burn fuel to come here. And whatever way that these reductions can be met, whether they're buying power through some program off the grid that's been generated renewably. They talk about the recycling program. I just want to say very quickly that to me recycling, a lot of people have a very kind of dismissive attitude toward recycling, but to me recycling is the pledge of allegiance of the environmental movement. It's the thing you just do as an exercise, even though you don't believe that saving your bottles are going to make a difference. It's really a question of millions upon millions of people doing this on a daily basis. The show that I work on, we're not allowed to have plastic individual drinking bottles anymore. We all have a container and drink water out of a cooler, so we would reduce our own plastic footprint that way. I know we're pressed for time, so I just wanted to say this is an issue that we face across the country in terms of the disposal of waste that's created in public spaces like airports and schools and parks. And I think that what the USTA is doing is exemplary, and of course they couldn't have a better partner than with the NRDC, and I hope that this is the beginning of something that will spread to other such athletic competitive events and performing arts events, if you will, around the country. So thank you.
And before we open it up, thank you, Alec. And before we open it up to a Q&A, I just wanted to point out to my left some of the green products that will be featured at the 2009 U.S. Open, and I'm going to ask for a little help to just bring them up to the dais. The one on the left that Rita Garza is now lifting, that's the one that is designed by Venus Williams for our green program. Organic materials, obviously, and a host of other products that we believe are much more environmentally friendly and reduce the impact of the Open on the environment, including this tote bag and other materials. So at this point, I'm going to open it up to questions. We have about 4 or 5 minutes. First question, please.
Question for Peter. One part of tennis that seems very resistant to recycling is tennis balls, in terms of actually recycling the material, or maybe using recycled rubber instead of virgin rubber. You've launched this initiative with the U.S. Open, with USTA. What kind of pressure do you think can be brought to bear on Wilson to create greener tennis balls?
I just want to put it in context. What the USTA did this year to recycle the tennis ball cans was extraordinary, because you have to take that little metal rim off the plastic can. So that, I think, is a terrific first step and is inspiring. Tennis balls are obviously a lot more complicated and have to be precision instruments. I learned quite a bit about tennis balls for this event. And of course, the average tennis player can use any old ball, but at the Open, they have to use newer balls. I think what is happening today shows that this is where the future is. Well, Wilson will be able to make the changes next year or the year after as technology develops. I'm not sure, but it clearly shows that that is the future.
And I do want to add that we have an extensive reuse program for the 16,000 balls that will be resulting out of the U.S. Open. We've reused them extensively throughout the years at the USTA with all of our community programs. And then those balls, once they reach a bounce point, they get donated to community programs, nursing homes, schools that need to put the tennis balls at the bottom of the chairs and tables. So we do our best within the context of that ball to make sure that it's reused and reused. And that's the message we learned from NRDC, is that reuse is very important as well.
All right.
Okay, well, question for Alec. Joining with the USTA, was it a natural fit to become the green spokesperson, combining your passion for tennis as well as being focused on protecting the environment?
Well, I think I'm someone who's been a fan of not just tennis, but of the NRDC and their work as well. So it was a fit of two organizations that I was really, really keen on their work. And I come to this event, as I said, most years, and it is overwhelming how many people come here. I mean, this is crowded. There's a lot of people who love this event, and the U.S. Open has a very special kind of. It's it's held in the fall, and it's the most beautiful. Some of the most beautiful nights in New York. We've watched great matches here as the summer is ending. But the good news is also that the U.S. Open is held at a time when you can still get locally grown vegetables shipped in here for people to eat. You know, the U.S. Open is held at a time when locally grown flowers can be brought here to be used decoratively for the event. The U.S. Open is held at a time when people can use public transportation a little more handily. It's not the dead of winter and we're in some indoor stadium at an event. So all of it comes together in a way for us to be able to do these kinds of reductions of fuels and materials and so forth that might be a little more challenging if it was at a different time of year or in a different location. So, and for me, I'm happy to do whatever I can. Yeah, whatever small part I get that's easy for me. I just want to know where's my T-shirts. That's all I care about. XL in the dark material. Let's go.
We'll work on that.
Okay.
Any further questions?
Another question for Peter. I know NRDC has a major sporting event initiative. How does the U.S. Open compare to some of the other major sporting events you've been trying to green up?
I think every event has its own challenges and its own, as Alec was saying, its own opportunities. And so we haven't measured them to try to compare one versus the other, but rather take the opportunities that are best in each of the events. What is exciting is that we have had a tremendous response. The U.S. Tennis Association has been terrific. Other leagues have also been terrific. We've been working closely, for example, with the Basketball Association and Major League Baseball, and other leagues have been really also very enthusiastic. So what's exciting is this is one of really a tidal wave of change, and that, of course, is what we need. We need to have a tidal wave of change in our society so that we can have a healthy future for our kids.
And also to transfer this kind of model to public spaces like airports and parks, fast food corporations, premium coffee distributors, if you will. I don't want to name any names, but a lot of plastic seems to be floating around there from some companies, and I don't see why they can't be taught to do things differently as well.
I guess what I wanted to press you on a little bit further is, you know, when you were thinking of how you were helping the U.S. Open, how it's a different kind of sporting event than, say, a Super Bowl, which is a one-off, or even Major League Baseball, where the stadium gets used, you know, maybe 4 games in a row, and then there aren't any games for a while. I'm wondering what were the unique challenges of this particular sporting event that you had to address?
Well, we were just talking about that beforehand, because you've got this great complex here, and it's used very heavily for 3 weeks and then much less. And so the complex itself has also addressed some of, for example, their energy use and in the hallways and in the offices. But with an event like this, there are a lot of opportunities, such as the paper use. All the paper, and think of it, the tickets, the daily draw sheets, the napkins, all the paper all around the place. In a couple of years, the U.S. Open has moved from really just any old paper to paper with really significant post-consumer recycled content, which again is just a huge step forward. So it's these one-offs, because you have an event. Again, the food is critical. And as Alec mentioned, you have the opportunity. People come here, obviously, to watch the tennis, but it's nice to eat, too. And so what happens at the food concessionaires, all the utensils now are made out of cornstarch rather than out of petroleum-based plastic. Again, really sends a message both to all the vendors, but the millions of fans who come here.
We have time for one last question before Roger Federer comes in the room. Yes, go ahead.
Just to follow up on the point that Alec made, and this type of policy, given the circumstances, can also be taken into airports, different facilities. What I would like to know is, how is the NRDC breaking down these initiatives into the younger kids, communities in the school? Because I understand you guys just talk about the NBA, probably the US Open, but how does that resonate in the kids in the community, which we need the most to understand these values?
We do it because of Alec. What NRDC says, you can go to our website, you can get lots of great information. But it's going to be people like Alec, it's going to be people like Billie Jean King and Venus Williams and the others who have done these PSAs that get people to pay attention. So it's through these wonderful people who have made a name for themselves, who people care about, who are willing to speak so much.
And I also think, in addition to that, that what you face with these kinds of programs is you face some resistance from the public in the beginning. Smoking was outlawed in this country over the last several years, and there were places where it seems like yesterday you were sitting in restaurants and bars and people smoked completely illegally and completely unselfconsciously, and now that's forbidden. Nearly everywhere you go, that's forbidden. And we've adjusted to that and we've accepted that. I think that people want to participate in these programs. They want guidance. I think they want green initiatives in public spaces like this. They do this stuff at home, and they want to know that when they go somewhere else, is someone helping them to do it on their behalf. And NRDC and the USTA have decided that on behalf of the people that are fans of tennis, they're going to do it on their behalf here while they're their guests here.